Imagine you wake up tomorrow morning, walk into your kitchen, and see a small glass jar sitting on the counter with some loose bills inside. Nothing special, just a few notes you tossed in there without thinking. Maybe $20, maybe $50. Now imagine that instead of being just a jar, that small amount of money had secretly been working for you overnight. Imagine it had grown by a few cents while you slept, and the next morning, it grew again and again and again, and you never had to lift a finger for that growth to happen. This simple image seems almost childish, but this is exactly how the journey begins when someone decides they want to stop working in only 7 years, not in 30, not in 20, not when they are too tired to enjoy their life, but in 7 years. The problem is that when you hear a timeline that short, your brain immediately resists it. It feels wrong. It feels unrealistic. It feels like something reserved for people who already have massive incomes or special knowledge. And yet, if you stay right here with me, if you sit with the idea without rejecting it too quickly, you will see that the real barrier is not the math. The math is shockingly straightforward. The real barrier is the belief that a short timeline means you need enormous amounts of money. But what if the number you actually need to invest each month was dramatically lower than the one you assume? What if the amount you need is so surprisingly small that it forces you to rethink everything you thought you knew about wealth, retirement, and the time needed to reach freedom? Make sure to stay until the end to discover it, leave a like, and let's start. Before revealing that number, before even getting close to it, we must build the foundation beneath it, because the number itself means nothing if your mind isn't prepared to understand why it works. Think about every person you know who believes retirement is only possible at 65. They all share one thing in common. They follow a system designed for slowness, a system that stretches the journey over 40 years because the system expects you to save tiny amounts. But if you shorten the timeline, you can no longer use the logic of a 40-year plan. You must switch to the logic of intensity, the logic of consistency, and the logic of compounding at high speed. And this is where your understanding transforms, because compounding does not care how long you have, it only cares how consistently you feed it. If you give it small inputs every month for decades, it rewards you slowly. But if you feed it real amounts, meaningful amounts, even for only 7 years, it begins to accelerate in a way that feels almost unnatural. Let's begin with something simple. Imagine you spend 2 or 3 evenings going through your bank statements. You see the usual things: groceries, rent, fuel, maybe streaming subscriptions, maybe restaurants, maybe impulsive purchases you forgot about 2 days later. Add it all up, and you probably end up with something like $2,000 to $3,000 a month in expenses. Now ask yourself a question that feels almost uncomfortable. What if you could build a system that paid all of that for you without needing your job? Not a luxurious life, just a life where your basics are covered and your time is fully your own. That is the definition we are using when we talk about retiring in 7 years. We are not talking about diamonds and yachts. We are talking about freedom, and freedom does not cost as much as you think it does. Now let's imagine you need $3,000 per month to live comfortably. That means $36,000 per year. And if you want to generate $36,000 per year without working, your investments must be able to throw off that amount safely, predictably, and indefinitely. Most experts talk about a safe withdrawal rate between 3 and 4%. If we assume 4%, then you need around $900,000 invested to generate that income. At first glance, $900,000 in only 7 years feels impossible. Most people shut down mentally the moment they hear it because the number is too heavy. But remember what I said earlier, the number you need to contribute each month to reach that figure is far lower than you expect, because the power is not in the raw savings alone. The power comes from compounding returns, accelerated growth, increasing contributions, inflation-adjusted portfolios, and the massive effect of staying consistent. Especially when the market dips, these forces multiply everything you do. Like if you start a YouTube channel and invest the money you earn from it, you could retire well before 7 years. And if you want to learn how to start your own YouTube channel, I can help you if you join my free Telegram community at the link below. But before you learn the real monthly figure, let's take a detour that will make everything much clearer. Imagine 2 people start today. One invests $1,000 per month. The other invests nothing. For the first few months, nothing dramatic happens. The investor sees a few dollars in growth, maybe $10, maybe $20. It feels meaningless, but a year goes by, then 2, then 3, and suddenly the person investing $1,000 per month looks like they've created something real. Their portfolio is no longer a small jar on the kitchen counter. It's something that grows on its own. Meanwhile, the person who invested nothing has no change at all, still depending on the job, still stressed, still hoping for a miracle. Now here's the interesting part. After 7 years, the person investing may have accumulated a 6-figure sum, maybe $200,000, maybe $300,000 depending on the returns. And even though that is not enough to retire yet, the speed at which the portfolio grows begins to accelerate on its own. At some point, the portfolio becomes the one doing the heavy lifting, rather than the person. And that shift is what makes the 7-year target possible. You don't get there through saving. You get there through the moment the portfolio begins compounding harder than you contribute. Now think about the tools you choose. Some people only put money into savings accounts. Those accounts give you 2 or 3% returns at best. But inflation eats that number instantly, meaning the real return is basically zero. Others put money into bonds. Bonds may be safe, but they rarely give you the kind of growth needed for a 7-year deadline. Some people invest in real estate, using REITs or rental properties. These can bring growth, but with more risk and more complexity. And then there are index funds, ETFs, and broad market equities. These historically return around 10% per year before inflation. Roughly 7% after adjusting for inflation. 7% real return is where the magic begins, because at 7%, money doubles roughly every 10 years. But with consistent contributions, the growth is even faster. This is why equities become such a powerful engine when your timeline is short. They give you the highest probability of strong growth while protecting you from the dangerous temptation of trying to pick individual stocks. Now I want you to try to guess in the comments the figure you think you have to invest every month to retire in 7 years. You might think the answer is $5,000 per month. You might think you need $10,000. You might think the goal is impossible. But the truth is much more surprising. And to understand that truth, you need to walk through the mechanics of compounding step by step. Imagine you invest $2,000 per month at a real return of around 7%. After 7 years, you would accumulate roughly $200,000. Not enough to retire. If you invest $3,000, maybe $300,000. Still not enough. If you invest $4,000, you might be around $400,000. You still fall short of the $900,000 needed. And this is where people often give up, because they think the goal is out of reach. But here is the twist. The number required is not just a matter of stacking money in an account. The number required depends on how much your expenses can bend, how much your income can grow, how effectively you reinvest dividends, and how the market behaves during the 7-year window. Because if the market experiences even 1 or 2 strong years, a portfolio can grow by numbers that seem unrealistic when viewed from the outside. A single good year can push your timeline forward dramatically, and your contributions during market dips become twice as powerful. They buy you more shares at discount prices, and when the market recovers, those discounted shares accelerate your returns even more. Now imagine you start with $2,000 per month, but after a year, you find a way to earn more. Maybe you switch jobs, maybe you add a side hustle, maybe you start a YouTube channel that begins generating revenue. Since YouTube is on easy mode now, and it's blowing up every small channel that does things right, as I teach you in my free Telegram community with the link below. Suddenly, you increase your contributions to $3,000, then $4,000, then $5,000. But here's the important detail. You don't need to start at $5,000. You simply need to move toward it aggressively, step by step, as your income grows. And that is the real secret behind the number. The lowest monthly amount you need is not a fixed number at the beginning. It is a dynamic number that rises with your income. And because your income can grow far faster than most people expect, the number becomes achievable even if it feels impossible today. But I promised you clarity. I promised you simplicity. And I promised you a number. So listen carefully. If your goal is retiring in 7 years with an income of around $3,000 per month, the lowest monthly amount you must invest, consistently, aggressively, and without breaking the flow, is between $3,000 and $4,000 every single month. That is the threshold. Not 1,000, not 500, not 200. The number sits firmly in that range. And once you understand why that number works, once you feel the logic behind it, the path becomes surprisingly clear. And not only clear, it becomes possible. And now that you know the real threshold, something interesting begins to happen in your mind. You start to see that the number itself, as intimidating as it first appears, isn't the toughest part of the journey. The toughest part is understanding that every dollar you invest in the early months carries far more weight than the dollars you invest later. Because in a 7-year plan, the early contributions gain the most time to grow, multiply, and expand. They are the seeds that have the longest exposure to the compounding effect. And when you begin to realize this, you start looking at your money differently. You begin questioning every expense, not from a place of guilt, but from a place of opportunity. You start asking yourself whether the money you are about to spend on something forgettable could instead be planted into your future. You begin realizing that every unnecessary purchase steals not just the money itself, but also the future growth that money could have produced. When this shift happens, your entire approach to money becomes almost instinctive. You stop fighting to stay disciplined. You simply become someone who sees your future freedom as more valuable than your present temptation. Now imagine yourself 7 years from today. Not in a vague way, but in a vivid, concrete way. Imagine waking up on a random Tuesday morning. The sun is coming through the window. You are not rushing toward the door. You are not checking the clock. You are not thinking about co-workers, or deadlines, or meetings you don't care about. You are simply awake, present, alive. And then you remember something incredible. Your investments paid for today. They will pay for tomorrow. They will pay next week, next month, next year. You are not working for money anymore. Money is working for you. And the only reason this is possible is because you decided that the next 7 years were worth the effort. Most people give their entire life to the system. They give 40 years to a plan designed to keep them stuck. But you, if you choose, can break free in a fraction of that time. But of course, you still wonder how the number can be so low, given how short the timeline is. You wonder how just $3,000 to $4,000 per month can get you to the doorstep of freedom in such a small window. The secret lies in the fact that while most people drag their journey across decades, you are compressing it into one intense period. When you compress a timeline, you compress everything: your effort, your discipline, your contribution rate, your focus, your growth, your returns, your commitment. You remove all the noise and leave only the signal. And because the signal becomes so powerful, the effect becomes exponential. What would normally take 30 years collapses into 7. Not through magic, not through luck, but through concentrated action. But let's be even more concrete. Imagine you invest $3,000 a month. At a 7% real return, you end up with close to $300,000 after 7 years. But here is the part most people forget. Those 7 years are not the end. They are the beginning of a new phase. Because once you reach that point, your portfolio is now generating real money every single month. Dividends, appreciation, reinvested gains, all of it working in the background. And even if you slow your contributions after year 7, the machine will not slow with you. It will continue to accelerate because now it has enough mass to grow on its own. If you can increase your contributions from $3,000 to $4,000 over the years, thanks to income growth, promotions, or side income, then your final number becomes even more powerful. If at some point your income rises to the point where you can push $5,000 into your portfolio, maybe for a year, maybe for 2, that one shift can shave months off your retirement date. Because the portfolio now grows not only from your money, but from market performance, reinvested gains, and the compounding of your compounding. Now let's go deeper into something most videos never tell you. When you're trying to retire in 7 years, you are not playing the same game as someone chasing a conventional retirement. You are playing a game of psychological endurance. Market volatility is no longer an annoyance, it is an advantage. When prices fall, your contributions buy more units. When prices rise again, the units you bought at a discount multiply your returns. This is why the last 2 or 3 years of your 7-year window can become explosively powerful. Because by that time, you have accumulated enough units that any market surge increases your net worth dramatically. That 1 year could be the difference between needing 8 years or needing only 7. Many people give up in the early years because they don't see this effect. But those who remain consistent long enough eventually witness this moment where the numbers suddenly bend upward. The growth becomes visible. The machine becomes undeniable. And this moment only comes to those who refuse to stop. But let's return to the figure again. $3,000 to $4,000 a month. That is the threshold. And you might ask yourself whether it's truly achievable. The truth is that 6 months from now, a year from now, 3 years from now, it can be. If today you earn $3,000 a month, you don't need to invest all of it. You simply need to move upward constantly. Add new skills, change positions, seek better opportunities, build a side income, start a YouTube channel, accelerate your trajectory. Too many people think their income today is their income forever. But income is one of the most flexible variables in your life. You can shape it, stretch it, expand it, and build upon it with incredible speed if you simply decide to stop accepting stagnation. And once your income expands, the $3,000 to $4,000 monthly investment becomes not only possible but expected. Because you will begin to see the machine building your freedom, and that vision turns into motivation. And motivation turns into momentum. Now imagine the moment your portfolio finally crosses the point where it produces as much as you contribute. That is the tipping point. It is the moment where your investments are doing the same amount of work you are. And after that moment, the scale tips permanently. You are no longer the one pushing the boulder uphill. The boulder begins to roll on its own. And every month after that, you watch the numbers grow faster than feels logical. You see your contributions making up a smaller and smaller percentage of the growth. And eventually you realize you don't need to push anymore. The portfolio has taken over. And this always happens also with YouTube. You do the right things with my help and the channel blows up for sure. But there is something else you must understand. Retiring in 7 years is not just about money. It is about identity. You have to become someone who thinks differently, who behaves differently, who prioritizes differently. You have to become someone who sees long-term reward as more satisfying than short-term pleasure. You have to become someone who protects their attention, their energy, and their income. And the more you become that person, the easier the journey becomes. Now picture yourself reaching the end of these 7 years. You check your investments, you see the number, you feel the shift, and in that moment, everything becomes clear. You realize that the 7 years passed faster than you expected. You realize that the sacrifices you made were not sacrifices at all, they were investments into your future freedom. And now you stand at the doorway of a life where time belongs to you again, a life where you are no longer a slave to alarm clocks, a life where your money finally works harder than you do. So now the conclusion becomes simple. Retiring in 7 years is not a myth. It is not a fantasy. It is a math problem combined with behavior. $3,000 to $4,000 per month is the lowest monthly amount needed to achieve it. And even if that number feels heavy today, it will not feel heavy tomorrow if you dedicate the next months and years to increasing your income, decreasing your expenses, and building the habits that unlock the 7-year path. And when you look back, the question will not be whether the journey was possible. The question will be whether you started when you had the chance. Because freedom is always available to those who seek it. But it requires courage. It requires patience. And it requires the willingness to believe that 7 years of discipline is worth the lifetime of freedom waiting on the other side. I want to leave you with a question. If you've made it this far in the video, it means what I'm explaining to you in my free Telegram community works, right? So join with the link below and let me know if you expected this in the comments. Subscribe to this channel and see you soon. Just a reminder, I'm not a financial advisor. This video is for educational purposes only, and any results depend on your own decisions and actions.